Hello and good morning to our listeners from around the world. I want to welcome you to another edition of This Morning with Soulivity, broadcasting live from our studio here in the nation's capital, Washington, D.C., and on KMET 1490 AM radio in Southern California. My name is Brian Wesley Johnson, and of course, I'm so glad that you're with us. I'm joined today by my very special friends, Sheila Applegate and Dr. Chanel DeGuzman. Good morning, ladies. How are you?
Good morning.
Good morning, Brian and
Good.
Sheila and listeners. Good morning.
We're almost on the weekend now. I love it. I love it. I
Getting
love it. I
close.
love
Getting
It's going to
close,
be
Brian.
yeah, it's going to be
And
warm here.
yeah, I was going to say, and we're in the second day of an ice storm here in Michigan.
Are you serious?
So second day of no school. So some people are
Wow.
very, very happy.
And Sheila, did you guys get snow?
We got ice last night, but not anything significant. So
Wow. Okay. Well, it's going to be like record temperatures here
Right.
today. Like close to, I think they said it's like maybe even close to 80,
Oh
something
my
like that. Yeah, something
wow.
crazy.
oh
And then
wow.
it's
Yeah.
going to drop. Then it's supposed to drop again.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like the
Um,
bottom half of the country's got extreme highs and the northern half has extreme winter weather
yeah,
right
I
Right.
now.
know
It's
it's
wild.
yeah. We need to do a show on like climate change and how people are dealing with it. Anyway, listen, before we begin, I want to remind our listeners, listen, we want you to be in on this conversation. We want your questions, we want your comments, we want your thoughts. Just post to our live feed here on Facebook or YouTube, and we'll have you join in on the fun. We'll do a shout out to you. Um, have either of you seen the new series Bel-Air?
Yes, I
Yeah,
just recently watched it.
yeah,
Some
yeah,
of
Yes.
it. Some of
yeah,
it.
yeah. And Chanel, you saw some of
Just,
it too.
yes, just recently, one episode.
Oh, well, that's funny because it hasn't received much wide acclaim as its 1990s cousin.
Mm,
Here's a little bit from a review from The Guardian. Bel Air is a reboot with its own remarkable origin story. In 2019, the independent filmmaker Morgan Cooper had the audacity to make a trailer for an imaginary new version of The Fresh Prince of Bel Air, reshaping the 1990s sitcom as a tough Ryan Coogler style drama. Cooper might have dreamed that the clip would go viral and that the show would actually be made, with him still on board directing episode one. That happened, but this fairy tale has a sad ending. The new Bel Air is confused and joyless, a remake without a reason to exist. Ooh,
Whoa.
mhm.
that's pretty harsh, y'all.
That is hard.
Um,
Yeah. No minced
um,
words there.
yeah, but my first question is, do you agree? Do you agree with this in part or in whole about the review?
I can say I'm relieved to read to hear it because my brain didn't know what to do when I was watching it. At first
I
I was
resemble that
like
remark.
yeah,
Yeah.
I was like, okay, so, I was almost judging myself for the way I first took the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air and not thinking about how intense it was behind the scenes.
Yeah.
But then I thought, but I knew, like I understood what the story was about, and I had compassion without this intensity of visual angst, you know?
Right. 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 What about you, Dr. Chanel?
I felt, pardon me, I felt very intense when I was watching the first episode. And because, I am familiar with the Fresh Prince of Bel Air, I was
Yeah.
not expecting what I saw.
Right.
Right.
And so,
Right.
yes,
Right.
the review did like what Sheila's saying. It gave me some relief or just some understanding of what I was experiencing because I'm like, what am I experiencing? I really didn't, couldn't really put my arms around the feelings that were coming from me watching this first episode. It was so intense, and
Right.
I didn't have any contextual background of this happening to the Fresh Prince of Bel Air.
Right.
And so I was completely just like what's going on. So yes, that review is pretty much on point.
Yeah, the the series in the 1990s, I mean, it went through its own metamorphosis, but it always began as seeing as, paraphrasing, as fresh, welcoming, open,
Mhm.
funny.
Hmm.
But this series is the exact opposite to me, but in the worst sense of the word. Um, where it's just, you know, mm,
Yeah, Brian, what I think happened and is happening to me even right now, what we saw on Bel Air to me is reality. That is
mm,
Mhm.
reality on that basketball court, that
right,
first
Right.
opening scene where, that scene where he, you know, even though he decided to go and prove himself, you were already going against the odds because if you set up the game and you won the game, there was probably going to be revenge because you won the game fair and square. So I thought we were going to be okay, but then that ball hit the the antagonist, I guess you would say,
right.
and so that's when everything went left. So you had no way out of that situation. The very fact that you went, you were
Right.
done either way. So that is reality. And so I think that's what I'm coming against is how harsh reality is. And the picture that was painted of Bel Air to me is nothing like what we saw in even in that first episode of Bel Air.
Did either of you see the spinoff of Power where the son's story takes over? Did you ever see that on I think it's on Stars?
No.
No.
Okay. So the for those of you who have seen Power or all this, but there was an original series years ago called Power where this guy was from the street. He was a drug dealer, but he was trying to create a way to get out of it by creating his own wealth that was clean. Well, his
Yes.
son was very smart and all this, but he didn't know anything about this until later, like when Power, the main character's name was Ghost, when Ghost died and basically his son took over, right? And he was young.
Mhm.
I mean, he was like, he was still in high school.
Hmm.
Well, I kind of feel like what they did was they were like, oh yeah, the Fresh Prince of Bel Air. Let's marry that with this whole like Power, this spinoff, and make Will more tough, more raw, that kind of thing, and blend it all.
Hmm.
And I think it might have worked if Fresh Prince hadn't existed.
Right.
And yes, and even with that, if you because I made it 4 episodes in, and in those 4 episodes, Carlton had a drug addiction and was just this, like,
Yeah,
twisted,
yeah,
revengeful person. They were
yeah.
all under this pressure of a campaign, and then you get the LGBTQ coming into it with that
Right,
story, and they're good stories. They're things that people need to know about it, but it was just one piled on top of the other, and I had, like, anxiety in my body when I wasn't watching it, and I was like, "Oh my gosh, what
right,
about teenagers watching this or people who are using it?"
right,
Like,
right.
Hmm.
living that at this time.
Hmm.
Yeah, I agree. Um I think that there was no real again this has to probably go to writing, right? Where
Mhm.
it's okay, how are we going to tell this story? How are we going to unravel this? I think it was like you said, it was like when I watched the first episode, I couldn't even make it through the first episode
Now,
because
what was it, Brian? Yeah, that you couldn't make it through.
it was just one thing on top of another on top of another on top of another, and
Hmm.
there was
Hmm.
no like
Right.
like um if in dramatic shows what I like to see is the characters being explored and that you're becoming more and more about the characters over time, and the writing is puts that in a place where you're interested, right? Not
Mhm.
that it's drama after drama after drama after
Right.
drama,
Right.
because I think
Right.
in this, I think it was just all about the drama. It was like, okay, how much drama can we put in an hour, in
Right.
an hour
Right.
long show, and see
It
what
felt like 3
happens?
hours every
Right.
episode.
Well, I
Which
think
is, yeah,
what has to happen is you have to have comedic relief. You
Right.
have to give us a break
yeah,
to recompose our emotions. And
right.
there was no relief. And that's why it was so intense, like Sheila was saying, where it was just from beginning to end. And that's, yeah, I guess why you couldn't make it through the first episode, because you had no break to catch your breath, honestly.
Yeah, I mean, like I'm glad that I didn't like see some of the other episodes, because I
Yeah.
probably would have like, yeah.
You
You
probably
didn't
would have
need
wrote a critique,
Oh
Brian.
yeah, definitely. Absolutely.
But you
Because
know what?
yeah, go ahead, Chanel.
No, I'm sorry, Brian. The only thing that did help me was Aunt Viv.
Right.
She was kind of still like quote unquote down, and she just kind of helped smooth things out. And so that was really my only real connection that I had in that with any of the characters. And I think the
Yeah.
article mentions that Aunt Viv kind of helped a little bit.
Right, until her dramatic story starts a little bit later.
Right. And so there it goes, right?
That-
It's, and I'm okay. And again, I'm okay with a dramatic series that takes a deeper look into the realities
Right.
of people, but not all at once. Not, I mean, that's just too much. I mean,
Right.
not to say that each individual character didn't have, that there wasn't a story to tell with them, but man, does it have to be all in an hour? I mean, I just go back to that,
Right.
like, and then it's like, and then you're asking me to come back and watch it again the next
So
day.
I wonder what the main, do we know what the main message was? What was the real point that the producer or the writer was trying to get across? Have we identified that?
I don't know. I
And
don't.
maybe that was
Yeah.
the problem, right?
I think
Right.
that was a problem. I think that there was no, I don't feel like there was really thought into, okay, we've got a season, we've got these 13 episodes or 26 episodes, and how are we going to plan on revealing these people as they are, with, to your point, Dr. Chanel, some comic relief, some happiness, some joy, the full gambit of emotions and feelings and states of reality, and not just one thing. Oh man, listen, we're gonna take a break because I think we need to take a break.
Yeah, we need
Yeah. A little comic relief here. please.
Yeah, and we're gonna talk more about this in about 2 minutes. We'll be right back, everybody.
Have you ever asked the question, if I was to be anything, what would I be? Regardless of money, regardless of status, beyond popularity and fame, living your passion, feeling your life has purpose. Soulivity is a space to nurture that which lives in all of us, a place where work can become play, and doing what we love creates the dreams of a lifetime.
Are you ready to take that first step towards true, unwavering inner happiness? Are you like thousands of people who have everything they need, not want, but need, and still can't seem to find happiness and fulfillment in their lives? If so, the Steps to Happiness show is for you. On my show, you will learn about the principles and practices that lead to true inner happiness. Because guess what? isn't found in our external environment, but within ourselves instead. Together with my guests, we will explore the latest physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual well-being practices, and together we'll advise you on the actionable steps you can take towards a happier, more fulfilled, authentic life. So I invite you to join me each week on Soulivity TV on the Steps to Happiness show with me, Teresa Greco.
And we're back with more of This Morning with Soulivity. I'm joined by my very special friends, Sheila and Dr. Chanel. We're talking about the new series Bel-Air, and we're kind of contrasting it to the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. I think the overwhelming review right now is that we needed a break from talking about it because it's that kind of. Listen, I want to do another comparison here really quick. The Washington Post in September of 2020 remarked on the 30th anniversary of a very special, iconic scene in which, to them, Will Smith became a dramatic actor. And the name of the episode was Papa's Got a Brand New Excuse. And they say that it was a watershed 23 minutes for the situational comedy, which until that moment hadn't fully explored the emotional depths of Smith's character. The episode featured the man hugged, loved, and memed around the world as Uncle Phil, played by James Avery, doesn't so much embrace as completely envelop his nephew, who is coming to grips with the loss of his absentee father for a second time. I mean, I remember that like yesterday. Do you guys remember that scene?
Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely.
Woo! And so when I look at that scene and then I compare it to Bel-Air, which, I mean, to Bel-Air's credit, it's not a pure apples to apples, but the one thing that it did was you had this situational comedy that had comedy there, and it left room for that event to happen and for you to take it in. So is this the purpose of dramatic shows? I mean, should there be something behind it that is about, like, maybe people of color being seen, or do these shows supposed to give hope? I mean, what are your thoughts about this, guys?
Well, I think that with Fresh Prince, we loved the characters by the time that we had that moment of that episode. And in this one, I feel like we were just expected to love him because we watched Fresh Prince.
Nice.
You know, like, we're gonna just assume you already do. And it felt like just a dopamine shot after shot. Like, you could have seen that on Twitter just by watching videos when you watch this one. And I do think more and more dramatic series are doing that, and that it's a reflection perhaps of what is happening, especially for teenagers. It makes me, what are we doing as a society and our ability to comprehend? And does that actually help people feel seen, embrace this? Or when we get episodes or shows like this, is it just amplifying the pain?
Right. Dr. Chanel, what do you think?
So a couple thoughts. With the scene that you're talking about in particular, I don't know if, like, I can certainly relate to that scene where, I think Uncle Phil was trying to, like, he already knew what the expected outcome was going to be.
Right.
So he, as I recall in my memory, he was trying to hold back, and he, I think there was some conflict between him and Will because of that fact. And then sure enough, Will was let down. And then I think that's when Will became vulnerable and we got to see his emotion. What it reminds me, I don't know, like, if our teens could relate to that right now, but what they can relate to is, I'm shifting gears to go to All American. All American had a scene where the two boys, one was, from the affluent family, one was from a similar case like Will, they both got stopped by the police. And then you got to see that they were treated the same. And the boy from the affluent community didn't know how to respond because he lives in a community where that sort of thing doesn't happen, where the under person, or, the other guy, who came from the lesser community already knew what to do and was
Right.
shocked that the other affluent boy didn't know. Now, our teens, I'm glad that they got to see that, because to me that brings more awareness of what's happening right now. I
Mhm.
Right.
think in terms of the parenting issue, I don't know that that's any more of a surprise anymore, right? Either you're
Right.
in a situation where you already, are dealing with this and you've come to accept it. I don't think that that was anything of new, to
Right.
enlighten anyone. But I do think some of these dramatic episodes, they do have the ability to help us increase awareness, and for that, I think it serves a purpose.
Mhm.
Yeah, and my guess is when they wrote this specific episode, there was a question that they were answering in that episode, which I think is, what is the definition of a parent, right?
Mm.
Is being a parent just biological, or
Mhm.
is it more than that? And they answered that question as they went through the series, because the person that was trying to protect Will more than anybody was Uncle Phil.
Right.
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 Well, there's a theme, Brian, in our community, excuse me, in the African American culture, where
Mhm.
we do have to step in sometimes and take
Yes, thank you
care
for that.
of
Yeah.
our sister or our brother's kids, or the grandmother has to now become mom because mom is going through something, or mom might be absent, she might be incarcerated. So in that regard, that's a common a
Mhm.
common occurrence in our culture.
Right. Right. And I love the fact that they brought that out, right?
Mhm,
And they
mhm,
did it in a very beautiful, 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 beautiful way, where again, there was room for this.
mhm,
Mhm.
There had been, you know, different scenes that were comedy and all that stuff in episodes before this, but you had never really met Will's father. You didn't know what
Mhm.
his story was. You didn't know about him. And then here they say, okay, well, we're going to tackle this. We're going to go in here and we're
mhm,
going to talk about this particular aspect of Will's life. And Will was ready for it. Well,
mhm,
we're going to make a turn. And because a lot of these shows talk about or display, um, wealth, specifically African American wealth, in a way that's like, wow, it's always inspirational, or even aspirational. And so I want to talk about that and kind of juxtapose that against the realities that are in our real life community, and kind of dig deeper in that. So we're going to take another quick break, everybody. And when we come back, we're going to talk more about, building Black wealth, and, how you can be involved in it. So we'll talk to you in about 2 minutes. Hey there, this is Brian with Soulivity.com. I want to share some exciting news about our new Aspire Academy by Soulivity. Now, you probably want to know what the Aspire Academy by Soulivity is. Well, it exclusively connects you with people around the globe and who share the intense desire to improve themselves and create a better life for themselves today. There's classes, there's workshops, there's live events, and even more exclusively just for you. You see, I wanted you to have a safe space where you could grow, you can learn, and it would empower you in all aspects of your life, including your mind, your body, and your soul. So how do you get started? Well, it is so easy. First of all, the best part, joining Aspire Academy is absolutely free. Just click on the Join Now button, sign up, and begin your journey. As a special part of this invitation to you, there are some free courses that are available for you to try from our amazing roster of coaches and collaborators. It's our way of saying thank you for all of your support
and being with us along our journey of expansion. I hope you enjoyed the Aspire Academy by Soulivity today. Start the process. Learn more about your passion, your purpose, and how to live a higher quality life.
Hello, and we're back with more of This Morning with Soulivity. Ladies, I wanted to add another kind of point to this discussion on dramatic entertainment, but I want to focus it on, how we see Black wealth and juxtapose that against reality. Remember the series? I know you both remember this series, Dynasty, right?
Yes.
Of course, not the reboot, youngsters, the original. I'll say two words: Dominique Devereaux. Woo! I was in love with her. This was played by the incomparable Diane Carroll. Talk about the essence of Black wealth. I mean, she had it all. But while these kind of characters help us to aspire, I think the real story is different. And so I've got this article from the Brookings Institute that talks about this a little bit. According to the Federal Reserve in 2019, the median net worth of white families was just under $190,000, 7.8 times that of their Black peers at $24,000. And that wealth gap translates to many other disparities, including business ownership, which is heavily influenced by individual and family wealth. It goes on to say in 2019, and I'm paraphrasing this part, out of all the businesses that are employer firms, these are businesses with more than one employee, only 2.3% were Black owned, even though Black people comprise 14.2% of the country's population. And so I hear these numbers, and as a business owner myself, I'm heartbroken that we're still in this situation. And so my question is, since this has been going on for a long time now, even into my son's generation, where this is continuing, is closing the racial wealth gap important to the future of our country? And why? And so, Dr. Chanel, I go to you first.
It absolutely is, Brian. This disparity that you point out, so you're saying that 2.3% of African American business owners own, there's only 2.3% basically of Black
Yeah.
businesses, compared to 83.5% of white-owned employer firms, meaning
Right.
those firms that have more than one employee.
Right.
That widening of such a gap continues to accumulate, and it's cumulative. So the effects just will continue because you're talking about legacy and generation after generation.
Right.
So I wonder, how do we catch up? How do we change that? And I know we'll talk about some ideas later, but to me, the power, the economic power, and the political power that comes with that kind of wealth, we don't have. And so
Right.
when you talk about inequality, when you talk about police brutality, you talk about the racial tensions that are happening right now, we don't have a way, we don't have a mechanism to cure that without increasing the Black business ownership
Right.
or
Right.
people of color's business ownership. There's no way to make those kind of political and economic structural changes without wealth. And
Right.
so there's a huge gap, and I'm hopeful, but right now the power is in the money. If you don't have money, you cannot have power and make decisions for change.
Right. Right. What are your thoughts, Sheila?
Oh, I absolutely agree with what you just said, Dr. Chanel. And then I would look at it also that it's important not just for the African American community, but for the
Mm.
entire country to understand that
Mm.
helping to develop Black businesses and to bridge that gap in wealth is going to benefit everyone except maybe the top billionaires.
Right, exactly.
And I think
Exactly.
that's a point that people are not realizing. For me, when I read Caste, The Origins of Our Discontent by Isabel Wilkerson, and I realized it shifted something in my head to look at our country from a caste system versus only racism, because the caste part isn't personal, right? So there can be somebody out
Right.
there that consider themselves racist, and yet they're afraid of helping to support the Black community running up because they feel like they're at the bottom. And that's such a misunderstanding of how it works. When we raise up any group, we raise all of us. And
Right.
I think shifting to that perspective for people who maybe are on the outside, not understanding the importance of it for everyone is a good idea.
Absolutely.
Can I interject here too, Brian?
Yeah, please.
So, Sheila, those are great points. What I would also emphasize is the reason why it is such an imperative for African American business owners to get more of the wealth is because hopefully they will then reinvest the wealth in their communities from which they came
Right.
from or which they're a part of. And so not everyone with wealth reaches back to their community or the Black community to help decrease these disparities. And
Right.
so the imperative is on Black business owners to create wealth so that they can create jobs in their communities so
Right.
that we can increase the resources and the access to resources and a better quality of living, i.e. through equality.
That's a
Thank
great
you for
point.
saying that, and thank you both for these important points of view. I'm going to end this particular segment before we go to break with this other quote from this Brookings Institute report, and it goes on to say, there's a causal relationship between discriminatory policy and wealth accumulation, and there's a direct correlation between wealth and business development. Business outcomes reflect a racial wealth gap that is helped by racialized policies, including those created by the federal government. We should look at the wealth gap as merely an indicator. By focusing on the root of the racial wealth inequality rather than fixating on the racial wealth gap, we can identify a path forward for creating a fairer and more sustainable economic and political system. And this was written by the Roosevelt Institute's Ann Price in a 2020 report aptly titled, "Don't Fixate on the Racial Wealth Gap." Wow. So listen, we're going to take another quick break and we'll be back with more of This Morning with Soulivity.
Hi there, Sheila Applegate here with some exciting news. I've joined the incredible Soulivity team as the host of the new Consciously Awesome live show, where I will be sharing insights to help you discover your full brilliance and claim the vibrant life you deserve. So tune in every Wednesday right here on Soulivity TV to join the fun, and remember to subscribe to the channel so that you don't miss a single episode. Have an awesome week, and I will see you on Wednesday.
Have you ever asked the question, if I was to be anything, what would I be? Regardless of money, regardless of status, beyond popularity and fame, living your passion, feeling your life has purpose. Soulivity is a space to nurture that which lives in all of us. A place where work can become play, and doing what we love creates the dreams of a lifetime.
And we're back with more of This Morning with Soulivity. I'm joined by my beautiful co-host, Sheila Applegate, and Dr. Chanel DeGuzman. Listen, guys, let me just jump right to it. What can we do to support ending the racial wealth gap and building up businesses of color? So, Dr. Chanel, I know this is something you're passionate about. What
Yes.
say you?
So I say education,
Hmm.
education, education. I am now, Brian and Sheila, a business owner because somebody has a platform. It's actually called Global Empowerment Ministries in Detroit, offered free training on how to become an entrepreneur or how to become
Wow.
a supplier. And
Wow.
that is how I learned about becoming a business owner. So my hope is that I will then hire people in my business that will add to the economic wealth of the economy. But we have to reach back because listen, guys, there's a reason why entrepreneurship is not taught in primary and secondary education, right?
Right. Right.
Here's a status quo. We need workers, right, to run
Mhm.
society. And there's a small percentage of wealth generators, meaning the business owners. And so why is that? So I think by infusing entrepreneurship, business ownership into the school curriculum, I think that could have a lasting and impactful change from the beginning as a foundation.
Right. Right. What
That's
about you, Sheila?
great.
What are some things that you're thinking of right now?
Well, I'm happy to learn from you guys today on this, but for me personally, one of the things that I do is consciously try to support Black businesses and people I know to be aware of, from entertainment to clothing to, services, whatever it is. And then being aware of the politics and where to vote in order to support it.
Right. Right. I love
What
that.
about you, Brian?
Well, I'm when we talk about these things, I agree with both of you that support has to come from within. It has to come from other communities that are non-minority, right? That do have wealth that they can, support Black business because it helps everybody. But I also just want to go back into something that even in this article that I was reading before about your vote is important and who you vote for is important
Mhm.
because policies like our tax code, for instance, is one that supports the status quo, right? Where, goods and services and how, uh, the tax code is enforced and all that is bad for Black businesses. I mean, like a lot of times the IRS will go after people at the lower end of the business spectrum and at the higher end of the business spectrum, right?
Mhm.
So
Right.
that's
Right.
one kind of thing. They talk about empowering more Black people as public fund managers, right? I mean, municipal governments control a lot of capital, and less than 2% are controlled by people of color, and even in those communities where there might be a majority minority, right?
Right.
um and then some of the things like back in the day with like public infrastructure, righting the wrongs of yesteryear, where a lot of the Black, there was more than one Black Wall Street, y'all. I mean, yes, it was known in Tulsa, but
Mhm.
the Black Bottom in Detroit was known as
Mhm.
full of money that was there. Was in Chicago, New York, Baltimore. but all the public infrastructure projects went right through those communities.
Right.
So, you know, who you are voting for and who is supporting initiatives that support building Black wealth should be foremost on your plate, right? You know, home ownership is one big thing. I mean, you know, my wife Sasha works in that arena where, you know, people who own their own homes are more likely to start a business because they have something to leverage. Right. So support people who are supporting policies for equitable housing. And so that's my kind of thought. So Dr. Sheila, you had a comment on this?
Yes. So I want to push back a little bit for you, Brian and Sheila, on the voting. So yes, obviously we know the voting is important, but I believe the political power that happens before I think we get to the vote, or it happens before the legislation, you know, dries on the ink with the lobbyists. And that is where the wealth creation happens to influence lobbyists to have certain legislation to, you know, either favor one group or another or suppress one group or another. And so that's why it's so important to have the wealth to buy the power, because essentially that's what we're doing. Yes, we do want to vote, but the voting, I think we've relied on that for so long that the emphasis really needs to shift to the economic power and the economic political power that is needed to actually make change. I mean, quick example, do you see how the I forget his name, but in Bel-Air, how he got out of jail? He got out of jail because his uncle made a phone call. That is how everything happens. It's with a phone call. It's with writing a check. The votes are important, but it's the writing the check. And we have to have the ability, Brian and Sheila, to write the check to get these things done.
Well, I'll say this point, and I don't disagree with you, but I'll add another dimension to this. The Democratic Party changed their primary caucus to support their candidates specifically for president with like communities of color. South Carolina is now going to be the first caucus. They understand the power of the Black vote. And so how is that reflected in investments in the Black community from voting? Because of what happened in 2020 and what's going to be happening in 2024 in terms of the caucus, do you know that investment from blue chip corporations into Black-owned businesses is up 47% over the last 2 years?
Wow.
So there is an importance here of the vote, and so I'm just saying that I think it's an all hands on deck kind of situation.
Even the $10 donations, right?
Absolutely.
Barack Obama.
Absolutely. And so, you know, I don't think there's one silver bullet, but let's keep talking about this. We're going to take another quick break and we'll be back with more This Morning with Soulivity.
There, this is Brian with Soulivity.com. I want to share some exciting news about our new Aspire Academy by Soulivity. Now, you probably want to know what the Aspire Academy by Soulivity is. Well, it exclusively connects you with people around the globe and who share the intense desire to improve themselves and create a better life for themselves today. There's classes, there's workshops, there's live events, and even more exclusively just for you. You see, I wanted you to have a safe space where you could grow, you can learn, and it would empower you in all aspects of your life, including your mind, your body, and your soul. So how do you get started? Well, it is so easy. First of all, the best part, joining Aspire Academy is absolutely free. Just click on the Join Now button, sign up, and begin your journey. As a special part of this invitation to you, there are some free courses that are available for you to try from our amazing roster of coaches and collaborators. It's our way of saying thank you for all of your support and being with us along our journey of expansion. I hope you enjoyed the Aspire Academy by Soulivity today. Start the process. Learn more about your passion, your purpose, and how to live a higher quality life.
And we're back with more of This Morning with Soulivity. Final thoughts, Sheila.
I just want to say that this is an important issue, and in my position, I just want to keep learning and supporting and finding new ways to help invest in the Black community.
Thank you for that. And Dr. Chanel?
I'm very excited and hopeful that there will be more entrepreneurs starting in the primary and secondary educational systems. And then just to know that anybody really can start a business. Here in the state of Michigan, Brian, it only costs $50 to start an LLC, and anybody can get it. And then,
Wow.
like I said, there are free trainings throughout Detroit that you can go to on a weekly basis to get, how to start your LLC, how to become a supplier, how to become a business owner, and how to get certified. So just yesterday, you guys, I didn't share this with you, but I became a woman-owned small business certified business.
Yay!
And
Congratulations.
I'm also a woman enterprise business, a WBE certified business. What that means is that now, Brian, I'm able to get contracts with the government, with the federal government, with municipalities, and also various corporations that do set aside money for people of color for business. And so anybody can also get certified. So I'm saying that there are resources. We can start making significant changes to change those numbers from the 2.3% of Black business
Right.
owners and
Right.
get that to an acceptable level to make a difference.
Absolutely. Hey, Dr. Chanel, now that you have this certification, can I borrow $5?
Absolutely. I can treat you both to ice cream now.
Yay.
Listen, my final thoughts on all of this is, and we're kind of talking about this before, this is an all hands on deck situation. If we're calling this country a country with opportunities for all, then let's make it that way. Let's talk, let's do things that our mouth can cash, literally. If you come from money, support others in having their own, opportunity. It's not that you're trying to do everything for them, but spend some money in a Black owned business or in other businesses of color. That effect can have a profound change on future generations in those families. Support people who support this in your government, local, municipal, federal, statewide. Do that, and start thinking, like Dr. Chanel said, start thinking about what you can do to even maybe turn a hobby into something that can be a business. Here at Soulivity, we talk about living your passion. And so there's resources and people out here that are available to help you along this part of your journey if it's something that you're thinking that you want to do. So great show today, guys. Really
Absolutely.
great show today.
Ryan, you bring up a really good point. You can take a hobby or something that is central to you. My cousin started her business in her kitchen because her daughter had a skin condition. She came up with a scrub to help her, and now she has that scrub in the shelves of Target and Walmart all over, like
Wow.
over
Wow.
700
Wow.
locations. It's called GLAM, GLAM, and it's just because she solved a problem for her daughter. So you can take your hobby and turn it into an actual business.
Absolutely. Listen, while we've got time left, Dr. Chanel, you've been doing some complimentary coaching sessions that can support in this? Can you talk quickly about this?
Absolutely. So listen, ladies, especially if you are sitting on the fence on a business idea and you need support, you are not moving on something that you know you should, reach out for a free consultation. Let's talk about it. And Brian will give you that information to reach out to me.
Absolutely. And Sheila, you've got something special coming up on the 25th. Can you tell our
Yes.
audience about this?
We're doing a fractal illumination gathering, and that is an energy healing technique, but actually an upgrade. So the energy is coming from source, and it helps us to harmonize with it in ourselves in the middle of the chaos of our world. So if you want to get a harmonized upgrade, you can use the link that Brian just provided to get more information.
Fantastic. Wow. I know it's only a few days left, but remember, February is Black History Month, y'all.
Yes.
Go check out blackhistorymonth.gov to learn more information about these great American heroes that include entrepreneurs, by the way. And you can go there and find out about events that are probably still going on in your area. So, guys, it's parting is such sweet sorrow, y'all. Listen,
You
on
guys
behalf,
are awesome.
I know.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you. On behalf of
Thank
all of
you.
us, I want to say thank you for joining us for another great episode of This Morning with Soulivity. We hope that you come back and join us every weekday at 8 a.m. Eastern for our live broadcast, or join us Thursdays and Fridays at 9 a.m. Pacific on KMET, 1490 a.m. for all of you out on the West Coast. Listen, until next time, keep on having those real fantastic conversations that empower with passion and purpose, of course, and create a life full of high quality living today. And so what do we all say? We say bye for now. See you next
See you.
time.
Bye.
Wow.
This work is subject to copyright owned by Affinity Global LLC. Any reproduction or republication of all or part of this is expressly prohibited unless Affinity Global LLC has explicitly granted its prior written consent. All other rights reserved.